So welcome everybody. What we're going to do is we're going to look through the last 2 weeks of the tour, have a look at the stages, who won what, and then we'll come right up to date with stage 10, the final stage. Obviously, we don't have to announce the winner. Everybody knows who the winner is, but we've got a lovely video from John Beams. Where he talks about his tour and what it means to him. So we'll play that a little bit later. But first of all, I'm going to enjoy going through the. Let me just get in my chair and going through the results with you. So the first thing is to have a look at the Kudu Alps podiums and what happened during the race. And on day one, we had Savareen Lipoak taking the win, with Kate Adie finishing in second place and Alyssa Ellis later in the tour to go on to take the lead, but coming in third. Now, sadly, Savareen and Kate couldn't take part in every stage, so they fell away from the classification after stage one, which was a bit of a shame, seeing as they'd shown their strength in this opening stage. Yeah, I'm going to have to do this by age category because what I've done is I've tried to search for the podiums, folks, and I can't actually see this. Let me just go full screen in the forums. So I found as many images as I could, and some of them we have, some of them we don't. So we're going to have to flick through the age categories where the missing podium images are. But this is stage one, and this is by age category. And to find the winner, you have to go down to the B category, and you can see that Daniel Cadiz took the win with a 36-minute time, and then John Beams came in 24 seconds later with a 36:24, and I think it was Christophe Content that came in third. Yes, it was. So that was your 1, 2, 3 podium for the opening stage. So the tour got well underway. Daniel took his first win of the tour. And then we had stage two, which was a little bit of a change around. I'll show the men's first this time. And Daniel again took a win. But John wasn't even on the podium on stage two. He lost a little bit more time to Daniel. Casper Hedidam showed his strength by finishing second in this stage, and Krajewski, who was right up there all the way through the first half of the tour. More about Andre later, but he really showed his strength with a good third place. As for the women, well, Alyssa Ellis started to shine with a first place, and this was her first win of the tour. And Linda Yinder would move into second place overall, with Anne Y in third. Now, obviously, as I say, the two ladies, Kate and Savareen, dropped out because they weren't able to do this stage. So the competition, really, Daniel was extending his lead at the front of the competition. We'll have a look at that. Let's have a look at see if we can go to the GC. Yep, there we go. So we will look at stage 2 GC now. I'm flicking between images, so just bear with me as I pull them up on screen. You can see that Daniel had pulled out a almost a 1.5 minute gap on Casper, and the gap to John Beams was pretty significant. It was well over 2 minutes 30. So John had quite a bit of catching up to do on Daniel later on in the tour, and this is after stage two. and you can see that the two ladies taking part in the first stage had dropped off the leaderboard, and Alyssa was now in 39th place overall, with Linda in 42nd and Anne Y in 47th. So moving on to stage 3, let's remove that one. In the women's, Linda Yinder this time took the win, with another rider who didn't ride the full tour, Rachel Ross, taking 2nd place and Alyssa Ellis taking 3rd. Now Alyssa always seemed to be there or thereabouts, but this time Linda got the better of her in taking 1st spot. And the men's podium was won by Jonas van der Wiel, who again would not go on to take part in the majority of the tour. In fact, I'm not so sure that this wasn't either his first or second go in the tour, in the full tour, I mean. And you can see that John Beams came in 3rd, but Daniel took an excellent 2nd to cement his lead over John Beams and maintain his 1st place in the tour. And we'll have a look at that now as we go to the general classification of stage 3. So here we go. And you can see that Daniel now has a 4-minute gap, just short, 2 seconds short, sorry, 4 seconds short of a 4-minute gap on John Beams. But John had moved into 2nd place with that good 3rd place, and Andrei Krudiowski was not far behind on his heels with a 25.42. Lower down, you were seeing the lower order taking shape, with Jonathan Stevens moving into 4th place, and then you had Marshall, Rusinek, and Wouter, who would go on to fight for that 4th and 5th place later in the tour, with Keith and Peter Brook-Varvel and Timo and Sondergaard all sort of like bringing up the top 10. Sondergaard's just outside it here, but he later climbs into the top 10. So some really exciting action was taking place by the time we got to this 3rd stage. And as far as the ladies were concerned, Alyssa was starting to pull out a bit of a gap, but not by much on Linda, because of Linda's win previously. But on Anne Y, we had already seen it open up to 10 minutes. So Anne would have some work to do. Moving on to stage 4. See where we can find the podium. Have we got a stage 4 podium? Yep, we've got a women's podium on stage 4. And Alyssa Ellis once again took her 2nd win, with Linda finishing 2nd and Anne finishing 3rd. And this is pretty much how it was going to go for the tour. I mean, I'm not going to spoil things. It does change about a bit. But pretty much this is what was happening in the tour. These 3 ladies all fighting for position and exchanging efforts. So nice to see the ladies battling it out. As far as the men were concerned, this was the Queen stage. This was stage 4, the Queen stage. And what a stage it was. It was almost 2 hours of racing for the winners, and anything up to 4 hours for some of the riders. And we'll speak more about that later, because the riders at the back of the field worked every bit as hard, harder than the riders at the front. But the tour was now beginning to be thrown into chaos, because John Beams with his 1st place and Kudowski with his 2nd, Jonathan in 3rd. This rather spoilt things for Daniel, and we'll see the results when we have a quick look at the general classification on stage 4. Here we go. So this is, I couldn't find the graphic, so this is by age category, but it still gives us the overall. What we have to do is we have to sort of like swap around a bit. You can see John Beams has got a 146.15, Krajewski a 147.23, but it wasn't Krajewski that at this point was finishing second here. It was actually Henrik Mard, who'd worked really, really well with John Beams to pull away, and they pulled out a significant gap, almost 8-minute gap on Daniel Cadiz, which is why Daniel dropped out of the top three. It was an amazing ride. I mean, I covered it, and it really was absolutely wonderful tactics from John to work with Henrik and pull out such a gap in the general classification. So moving on to stage 5, things were really beginning to hot up in both the men's and the women's competition. But sadly, I don't have a stage 5 podiums for either the women or the men's. I just couldn't find them online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the stage 5 general classification instead, the age, and we can look at both the men and the women on this stage. For in terms of the podium, we can easily work out the podium by looking at the times, and you can see that John didn't take the win in stage 5. That was taken by Casper Hedidam, as you can see, the A1 rider at the top of the field with a 47.31. Now John came in with a 48.55, but that didn't bring him in. Is this correct? Because this is showing Daniel taking. I don't think this graphic is correct, folks. I didn't believe that Daniel beat John in stage 5. Maybe. Oh yes, he did. Of course. Yeah. Casper took the win, and Daniel pulled back some more times, 25 seconds on. I remember now, on John Beams. So yes, it swapped around even a little bit here in stage 5. Daniel was able to pull back some of the 8 minutes that he'd previously lost to John Beams. And then we had following riders like Wouter put in a storming performance, Andrzej Kujawski, again, another great performance, and Jonathan Stevens with a 50.45, probably one of his best performances of the tour, to stay well within reach of the top of the leaderboard. As far as the women went, let's have a look. I think we got Y with a 133. What about Linda with a 114? So that would be second. Do we have Alyssa? Can't see Alyssa in this. Alyssa's missing from this list, but she did ride. Oh, there she is. Alyssa put in a really fantastic performance. Again, probably her best result of the tour as well, with a 112. So Alyssa took the ladies' podium with Linda in second and Anne Y in third. Some really good results in stage 5. It really was a very, very good stage, and beginning to sort out the podium spots as well. Not just the podium, but the 4, 5, and 6. So we do have graphics for the stage 6 podiums, and we'll go with the women's first. And this time, Jo Dose came back to ride, and she took the win with this was a really good ride. I watched this one. And Alyssa finished in second and Linda in third. So once again, we had a rider taking part, winning the stage, who didn't complete enough of the stages to be in the running for the overall. But it was a really good effort by Jo to take the win. And then the men's podium was won by Nicholas Goulot, who actually helped John break free. They didn't work together the full stage, but they did do a lot of work together in the early part. John managing to work with Nicholas to distance Daniel, who managed to hang on and not lose too much time to John and Nicholas, but he was still falling further behind on general classification. And we'll have a look at the the GC to actually see that. Put up stage 6. Now this is the GC overall. This is not the age cat this time, and this is showing we actually got our acts together here and started to show the time gaps. And you can see that John has now got a 6-minute 39 gap over Daniel. And it was beginning to get to the point where this is stage 6. Daniel really needed to try and pull back some of this time because he was going to run out of stages if not. So 6 minutes 39 behind. But the big really news here was that Andrzej Krajewski had dropped out of the tour. We don't know why, we still don't know why, but he dropped out of the tour, no messages or no indication of why, and Jonathan Stevens jumped up into 3rd place. Now he was a long way behind Daniel, and you won't mind me saying that, over 11 minutes behind Daniel, so it was unlikely that Jonathan would improve on his 3rd place, but to move into 3rd, the question was, he had a fairly significant gap over the chasers, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, but, and here's the big but, we would see that gap of what's he got now, 8 minutes, start to close up as the riders behind realised that, you know, the top 3 spot wasn't out of the question. So we saw some really good swings and roundabouts as the placings from 4th to 10th swapped around in the tour, and more about that as we go through the rest of the results. So it was getting exciting, not so much at the top of the leaderboard now, although it was for me, but at this point I'd already called John as the winner of the tour, so I didn't see him losing that kind of a time gap. But moving on to stage 7 and the women's podium, and we had Joe Dawes once again taking part, and again taking the win from Alyssa, with Linda, the perennial 3rd place lady, on this occasion coming in. And so things didn't really change around much because Joe couldn't leapfrog any of the ladies. She hadn't done enough stages. And Alyssa maintaining her 1st place on the GC, which we'll have a look at as soon as we've had a look at the men. Now the 7th stage was notable because Cedric Richard jumped off the front, and John also worked with him to try and get more distance on Daniel. And this actually turned out to be a good tactic because it worked, and the gap to Daniel Cadiz grew. And we'll have a look at that now as we look at the general classification. Here we go. And you can see the gap now had gone from 6:35 to 7:05. So John, with the help of his friend, had pulled out another 30 seconds on Daniel. And the gap to Jonathan was like 12 minutes, well, 13 minutes. So nothing to worry about, but he was in danger now of getting an unrecoverable gap distance between himself and John. Now, Jonathan Stevens maintained his lead over Giorgio behind, but it was starting to get a little bit closer. If you look at the 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th place, it was starting to tighten up a little bit with only 3 minutes between Peter Brook-Ravel and Timo. So that was an interesting battle, and even now Sonberg would have something to say in the results. Wouter was only 2 minutes in front of, well, less than 2 minutes in front of Lee Marshall. So he had to make an effort to make sure he didn't lose his 5th spot at this point in the tour. The ladies, Alyssa was now pulling out a commanding lead over Linda, and it had grown to 17 minutes. And the gap back to poor Anne had significantly grown. Anne was starting to feel the tour now, and and dropping time along with Stephen Elliott at the back of the pack. Excuse me. So the overalls were starting to take shape for the ladies, definitely, but for the men there was still much to play for as we go into stage 8. And we'll look at the ladies again first. And ladies stage 8 was won by a rider returning to the action. I think this was her second time and her second win. So Savarine, who'd taken the win on stage 1, if you remember, came back to ride stage 8 and took the win, and pretty significantly as well. She really smashed it for the first place. But Jo, taking part in this event, came in second, pushing Alyssa down to third. However, Alyssa would maintain her first place in the overall because Savarine and Jo again hadn't completed all the events. Let's take these graphics off the screen and one as well. Come on. Bear with me, folks. There we go. Off. So moving down to the stage 8 men's podium. Again, we had Nicolas Goulart having a shout. And this was quite a surprise that him, and Taro Sylvain pulled away from John. And it looked to me, watching this stage, that John was just quite happy. I mean, initially he was able to stay in contact with them, but towards the end of the stage, John just let them go. He was, by this time, well in front of Daniel. Didn't have to worry about losing any time whatsoever. None of the people in front of him were any danger on the GC. In fact, they weren't even on the GC. So John just settled in, finished the stage strong. Didn't have to worry about the loss of time because he was actually gaining time on all his competitors. And he rode a good stage. I mean, John doesn't do easy. He, even on the stages where he didn't need to win or he didn't need to push himself, he did so because he gained maximum time on all the people chasing him. So that was a pretty good stage, and we'll have a look at the GC after stage 8. And again, this is an interesting graphic because you can now see that Daniels has fallen 10 minutes behind, so the gap increased by another 2 minutes. But Jonathan Stevens fell even further behind Daniel. So 15-minute gap, he's not going to close that. Sorry, I'm saying fell even further behind. Jonathan Stevens was 15 minutes. My apologies. And he's not going to close 15 minutes in 2 stages. Jonathan knows that. So Daniel was safe. Jojo was not really closing in on Jonathan at this stage. 9 minutes was a bit too much to ask of Jojo. But Wouter was not far off him in 5th place. And the battle for 6th and 7th was happening between Lee Marshall and Peter Brook-Ravel. But Timo might still have a say about that 6th place battle. So anything could happen even with 2 stages to go. The ladies, Alyssa, as you can see, in 21st place, cementing her place with a really good lead over Linda, and Linda with a sufficient enough lead over Anne to make sure that the 1, 2, 3 was more or less settled in the ladies. So that's your stage 8. Moving on to stage 9, we'll have a look at the ladies first again. And the stage 9 women's podium, this time a bit of a surprise because Alyssa had a superb ride in this one. She really did, to take first place, leapfrogging Jo on the road and taking the win. And Jo, obviously, as I said, didn't take part in all the events. I wish she had done, because it would have been interesting to see where Jo would have finished in the GC. I think she rode 4 stages all told, maybe even 5. And then we had Linda Yinder in 3rd place. So, but really the women's GC was over and done with. We already knew the 1, 2, 3 at this point. The men's podium, John took another win, and this time it was a really classy win. He absolutely smashed the field in this 9th stage, with a very, very strong performance. This was a nice stage to watch. I covered it later on in the evening, came in and watched it, the full stage, and John rode well throughout and never looked like relinquishing his 1st place. But Wouter, remember me saying about the GC and him being behind Giorgio? Well, Wouter leapfrogged Giorgio on this race, coming in 2nd place. But Giorgio kept close enough to make sure that he wasn't going to lose his position on GC. And we'll have a look at that now. So stage 9 GC, and the positions are finally beginning to sort of like be settled here. Although you only had about a minute and a half between Giorgio and Wouter, and I called in my commentary when I covered this event that Wouter could well catch Giorgio with a really good performance, but 6th, 7th, 8th was up for grabs with Lee, Peter, and Timo. Niels had fallen behind. He was now too far behind Timo, close that kind of gap. So the battles happening were between 4th and 5th, and then lower down the field, the battle for 6th, 7th, and 8th. And it was going to lead to an exciting fight in the final stage. So remember these positions, folks, on screen, and the time gaps. Now, as far as the ladies go, we had Alyssa maintaining her 21st place overall, Linda maintaining her 23rd, and Anne down in 25th. So no change there, but the podium spot, the GC spots were now well and truly over in terms of the ladies. And finally, stage 10, and everybody at this point was glad to be finishing the tour. As we got Joe coming in again, and this time taking the first, and basically changing around from the previous stage 9, where Alyssa had won. So Alyssa took 2nd, and Johanna, who was a rider which I don't think had taken part in any of the other stages, certainly not a name I recognised, was coming in 3rd spot. So this was a really good stage. It was a long stage, over 27 kilometers, and so testing, but it had a nice downhill at the finish. Yeah, it was a good stage, and it was nice to see everybody finishing it off. But what happened in the men's? This is this is the important one. We had Christophe Durand taking the win, but Daniel Cadiz put in a really good ride. I mean, I think he had something to prove at this time. Tried for the win, but Christophe just proved a little bit too strong for him. But Daniel came in 2nd, clawed back a little bit of the time he'd lost to John. But you could see watching this stage, and I did live. John Beams just settled in. He knew he wasn't in any danger unless something absolutely dramatic like a mechanical happened. He had more than 10 minutes to lose. So John didn't panic. He just rode his own race. He still rode very, very strongly. But he finished out of the podium spots with Teru Sylvain finishing in 3rd. So where did that leave us on GC? How far did John fall behind on this stage? Well, the truth is, not very far. You can see at the end of the tour, John had got a 16-minute gap over Daniel, which was pretty significant. And if you look at the start of the tour, where Daniel won the free stages, and then towards the end of the tour, John Beams won the free stages, and then they swapped around a little bit, positional wise. It was a fantastic tour to watch. Daniel taking the initial opening salvos and then John coming back. And what we're going to do now, folks, is we're going to go to John and let him tell you about his tour. Now, it's a 7-minute long video, but please stick with it, because I was asked by John, did I want to cut it down? And the answer is no, because John speaks openly and frankly about how he felt during the tour, his tactics that he used, and everything else. So we're going to take this graphic off screen. I'm going to try and do this seamlessly by transitioning to website links. So let me see if I can pull this up. Just bear with me a few moments while I pull it up on the screen, and then you should hopefully, when I go live, see what I see. Yeah, there we go. So this should work, folks, I'm hoping. I'm going to put it full screen for you so you can actually see what, and in fact will hide me as well, and I'm not going to get distracted. And let's transition this across and then start the video. So here we go. And welcome John Beams to the broadcast.
Wow. 10 days. Wow. That's been an amazing experience. Thanks to all the other riders, organisers, commentators and sponsors making that happen. Yeah, it's been an awesome, challenging experience. I'd just never done any sort of tour racing like this before. Convenience of doing it at home, and then just having this set up on RGT and everyone working together to make this happen. The last 2 weeks have just been a blur of racing and recovery. I feel feels like I pretty much dedicated the last 2 weeks of my life to doing this, and yeah, it's been brilliant. And I think every plan I've made has fallen by the wayside. The first one was that this tour was going to be a nice, tough but steady. Just sort of participate in all the rides, have some fun. I even let James talk me into doing the Rockies Horror Show the day before. Oh, that took it out of my legs. And then I got into stage one. I mean, that was just, what was that? One long steady climb, just relentless. But the race started, and the challenge of following a wheel, holding a wheel, looking at the rider behind, trying to stay ahead. I got completely immersed in it. It's awesome. And then watching the race streams, got the social media, seeing the pain cams, sat on the sofa afterwards and just watching what happened. Because as I said, trying to remember it at the time, difficult. Watching it afterwards again, that's brilliant. And when I heard the comments like, "Oh, look how serene and in control he looks," I had to laugh, because so many of those rides I was just on my limit, or even like setting new limits. Absolutely pushed myself. Everything around the race was just helping push me forward. I was having to kind of dedicate to this, really. I mean, I sometimes knock back all the sweets after a ride, but I was avoiding the sugar, eating well, sleeping well, getting home in plenty of time, warming up for every ride. Yeah, it's completely immersed. I had a quick look back over some of the stages before today's ride, just to try and jog my memory a little bit. And I remember after obviously did the Rockies, been a bit tired getting into it, but I managed to stay near the front once I got into the racing. And I finished 4th on that first stage, and that kind of motivated me. But then I knew I had to do the 6 AM slots on Tuesday and Wednesday, and there was a long run-in on the Tuesday. And I think not being in the 6 PM slot probably cost me a few minutes there, or contributed to it. The Wednesday wasn't as bad, because it was like a hill from the start, so I don't think it mattered which slot you're in. But I think I lost another minute. but I'd certainly got the Rockies out my legs by that time, and I was feeling really motivated. And we got to the Queen stage, and I kind of prefer the longer endurance sessions. So like 2 hours on the Queen stage with those 3 hills. I don't normally eat sort of much sugar and stuff on the ride, unless it's like over an hour or something. But yeah, the Queen stage was just like Jelly Baby massacre. I was munching Jelly Babies the whole way through. Nice sugary coffee before the start, and it was all out. I think that was a personal best effort for the time of the race. Just insane, and obviously pulled back loads of time on the GC and really set me up, but my legs were hurting. I went into the Friday and it was a sufferfest. I think I tried to look strong, stay on the front, do a couple of little pushes, but it was so hard. And when the big pushes came at the end, I dropped off and just did what I could, and it's great. I lost about half a minute or so. Weekend couldn't come soon enough. Nice rest. But me and Daniel both doing King of the Castle, but fortunately the way the positions worked out, didn't have to work too hard on that, and I was actually feeling really good on Monday, and I just put in just a massive effort. I was just really enjoying it. Been following more of the race on Facebook, and watching the streams. And then we had was it stage 7? Cedric Richards was riding with me. That just worked out so well. I couldn't believe my luck that a rider would come up and then work with me. Really happy. I mean, he was putting a lot of power in towards the end, helped speed on that flat, so I just sat on his wheel over the line. Brilliant. One of the race highlights though was the second Wednesday, stage 8 with Daniel. That cat and mouse back and forth, maximum efforts, almost stopping. You get the drafting benefit over about 16 kilometers an hour. So on some of the gentle slopes, we were just holding our speed just below 16, so we couldn't draft each other. I really did. Yeah, I did. I thought I was going to crack first. It was Alps, just so hard. But we got through it. And I made some more time, so I was really chuffed. So stage 9, obviously, I mean, Derek was half right, because he said, did I plan this? No, I didn't. I saw Gav Ash go off so near the start, and I was telling myself, don't do it. But I was watching that wheel go. I just wanted to jump on it. So I raced after, got on the wheel, and Gav worked with me. We worked together for ages. And I got carried away with the race and just kept the effort up. I think I was 1 watt off my best time, my best power for an hour. So just crazy effort. I can't believe I pulled that out with so much fatigue. But today, a couple of couple of sips of the bubbly. I've not drunk that much yet. Still a bit tired, and it was nice just to ease off a bit today, go over the line, celebrate, carry on celebrating tonight, and just again, thanks everyone. This has been amazing. Cheers.
Special prize of, let's have a look, let's just make sure I'm getting this right. Yep. A special prize, folks, of £25 Amazon vouchers are going out to the 2 riders who have been voted extremely endurance riders for completing the full tour and for sticking with it. And those 2 riders, give a big hand to Anne Y and Stephen Elliott. They will each get a £25 Amazon voucher courtesy of OTR for the performances and the entertainment they gave everyone on the tour. I mean, if you followed my broadcast, you will know that I covered every last minute of the stage when I could, and I didn't mess up, but I covered every last minute of the stages to see these riders coming in home, and commented on the fact that it's amazing that they stick with it through every stage. And some of the riding on these stages took them 4 hours, folks. The winners finished in 2 and they finished in 4. So that's why OTR are giving away this special prize. So well done, Anne Y and Stephen Elliott. But here we go. The SDW Friday Frenzy begins again on 19th of November. With round one taking place at 18:30 GMT. And I'm going to pull up the text which they sent through to me for you to read. Let's just take that off screen and pull this one up. And this is from the organizer. So he's delighted to announce the launch of the Friday Frenzy Series 3. And it starts on the 19th of November, 18:30 GMT. On the free, the word free here being crucial because it means riders can come across and try for nothing, the RGT platform. Southborough and District Wheelers are running the races, and successful format of 20-kilometre local routes in Kent, the UK, with a mix of road race, circuit, time trial and omnium races. They'll have different categories, including open, over 45, youth and female cats, and a team competition for teams of up to 4 riders, with the best 2 results counting. 5 rounds before Christmas, a short pause, and then 5 in the new year, with the best 7 of 10 rounds counting. You can see the link there, but just go to rgtdb.com series and you'll see the SDW series. Now it's going to go. Here we go. I mean, I know I announced it in the but it is nice when you actually see it. These are the last 10 riders on So, I covered the SDW news. Now, there is more OTR news, but we're going to release that. I'm not going to do everything because this broadcast has already gone on quite long enough. We're going to release more news in the very near future via these news broadcasts. But what I want to do now is get on with what everybody's waiting for, and that's the prize draw. Who is going to win? And I'm going to transition this across, just bear with me, and we'll see who's going to win the huge prize. This is for 250. Here we go. We'll transition it across, and then we'll press the play button when I'm ready. Now what I have to do is actually click on it, and then it will go live. So this is live on the air. The spinning wheel will spin, and whoever it falls on wins the £252. Here we go. Who's going to be our winner? I'm sure you're all as excited as me. Let's see where the wheel stops. Now it slows down. Oh, who's it going to be? Oh, great. And why? Just. Oh, that's a worthy winner. Well done, Anwai. You win the £252. Now, what's really important here, folks, let me just close this. What's really important is Anwai was the last rider to finish in the tour. So the last rider has come first in the prize draw. And I think that's pretty... I'm laughing. I think that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I don't think we could have planned that better, but it wasn't planned. You can see this prize draw is totally random. The software is totally random. It just picks, it does a spin and then picks. So well done, Anwai. At 2 hours and 54 minutes, at 2:54 p.m. we've announced the winner. The broadcast can't get my words out. I'm so excited. The broadcast has been going 54 minutes, just short of, and so we're ready to finish, folks. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm really getting into these broadcasts now. As I get more time, I'm hoping that Damon from ZMS will give me a little bit of respite and I could spend a bit of time getting the software sorted. Because you saw at the start, we still have glitches. I'm still not polished, but I'll get there. I'll get there. And as they remove some of the bugs from OBS, hopefully we'll get it to work that little bit better and I won't have as much problems. But it's been really enjoyable. I can't tell you how much I enjoy this, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. I'm going to end there, folks. In fact, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to transition across my thanks for watching screen, and big shout out to the sponsors who will now be on screen. So thanks to Torm Cycling Clothing. Can't get my words out. Torm Cycle Clothing. To Hexy Socks and to Palo Valley for sponsoring the broadcast. Thanks to everybody who took part, everybody who was a part of it, and everybody who's watched and commented. Finally, please hit the like button. Please subscribe, help us grow the channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much, folks, and take care, enjoy your weekend. See you next week.